So, welcome back, everyone, to the podcast. We had some really nice feedback from the last episode, and essentially, we're trying to start painting a vision of what the next paradigm of masculinity might look like after postmodernism. And some people were saying we should hook up with some of the emerging debates on metamodernism and complexity thinkers and next paradigm. You know, the whole crew of kind of philosophers for the post-apocalyptic world. And we had another good bit of feedback as well from Ray, who said, I think you should also share a stage with some of these people, but what do you actually bring to that conversation? So there's a few people saying, standing on the hilltop saying beauty is a good thing and everything, and we should restore it because there's something missing. But what do we bring that's different to some of the other people out there who are putting that forth? I've got some other reader questions that I might bring in, but I'll pause there and see what you think.
So the question is, there's several voices that are talking about the restoration of beauty, which we've been talking about for years. What's different in our angle?
What's different from the Ars Amorata? Exactly. What do you bring? What do we bring? If there's an Amorati who are a force for restoring beauty, are we doing it in a different way to the Screwtopian alumni or other kind of integral meta-modern thinkers and so on?
I'm not sure, because I know some of these voices and what they're kind of saying. Roger Scruton, certainly, which I am an alumni, Roger Scruton, strongly influenced me. I was writing about beauty before I ever met Roger Scruton, but I realized that he was doing something very profound. To me, it's profound. And he's the only one that has the same idea that I have, that I know of these beauty seekers. He said this phrase, which I have been thinking and saying for a long, long time, that in this post-secular age, where we've removed ourselves from religions and myths and all, this kind of stuff, which Nietzsche warned about, because you take away the guardrails of society, which is a whole new subject. But Roger Scruton said that beauty, because it has the power to envelop us in transformative forward momentum and looking up energy, beauty has the power to replace religion in this modern age. And which is aligned with kind of what, and others might say it's an adjunct to religion, but beauty for sure, this restoration of beauty, our angle is different in that, or my angle is different, because my thesis is that beauty is a very real metaphysical thing that exists, whether we look at it or not, whether we turn our face toward it or not. So it's not, the two sides of the picture for beauty has always been is subjective or objective. Objective is beauty exists and we discover it. It exists in an object. It exists in a painting. It exists in a sunset. It exists in a baby's smile. Beauty exists, and we become observers of it and partake in that. We see it and we recognize beauty where it lies. That's the objective view. And the subjective view is nothing is inherently beautiful except if it gives us the feeling. Like we look at the sunset and we get an endorphin or a dopamine rush that makes us feel that all is right with the world. We become calm, we become complacent, our mind calms, our battles seem small because we're in touch with the beauty that is manifest in us. In other words, it's the eye of the beholder theory. And my personal thesis is neither one of those things, or it's both those things. And it's also something that exists outside of the object, independent of any object, and independent of our observation or our perspective. So it's real thing. So my concept of restoration of beauty, because I know there's voices out there that are talking, for instance, about uh, the Catholic Church is being the church in their mind of ultimate beauty because of the traditions and the liturgy and the saints and the iconography and this kind of stuff that go along with the extravagances and visual art of the Catholic faith, whereas a Baptist church is stripped down to just wooden pews, a wooden cross, because the Protestant faith said you don't need all this ostentation because you have a personal relationship with Jesus. And so you don't need all the trappings and the gold, and the scepters and the mitre hats and all this kind of stuff. You don't need any of that stuff because we're having a direct conversation. And so none of those trappings matter because we just need the wooden bench, and it's a revival tent. And so because we have a personal conversation with Jesus, we don't have to go through all this ritual, et cetera, right? So two different ways of looking at it. And there's voices that are trying to say we've lost, secular age and a Protestant age, we've lost beauty that the Catholic Church represents. So that's one side of things. And then there's others that are talking about pure art, artistic, like just art as we know it, like the plastic arts and, paintings and sculpture and stuff like that. And architecture, I guess you could lump in there. So that's the restoration of beauty in the idea of what we're calling art and what we're calling things that have taste that we want to pass on, as opposed to sentimental art, which is kitsch, which anybody can swab together, a lake with ducks on it and call it art. But is it really? Because it doesn't have pain, it doesn't have sorrow, it doesn't have longing, and it doesn't whatever. So the postmodern deconstructive thing that you and I have talked about before, which is a negation of beauty, which is a willful choice of destroying beauty and celebrating ugliness in its place, and chaos and brokenness. So what's different with Ars Amorata in our quest for beauty is that, in my opinion, we're based in interpersonal relationships. That's what we base. That's what our function is. That's what our foundation is. How we see each other from the I to the thou. How we relate to the other, and especially in man-woman dynamic. So that to me is where the greatness of it blossoms and starts. Our conversation with ourselves about a beautiful life well lived, a beautiful relationship, beautiful art, a beautiful way of worshiping something, all stems from our relationship to ourselves, and an extension of that, the relation of that reflection of our relationship to ourselves, relationship to others. So I think that's what our difference is. We're based on our restoration of beauty spawns from the idea that there's a feminine spirit and a masculine spirit. The two sides that the Greeks talked about.
Well, let's go there a bit further. I do want to flag up, and we'll probably keep this for another episode, but I was quite curious to hear more about the idea that beauty can replace religion. And exist as a I guess a culture and a system for living that provides everything. In that case, if it replaces religion, it kind of replaces everything that religion gives us. Let's come to that in another time. But when you talk about the interpersonal relationships and the masculine and the feminine, I think I heard you say, actually, I don't know if we spoke about this really off record in over a drink or something like that, but you said that there's two things that are deeply driving of your philosophy and your work, and two things that piss you off, actually. And one is the way that beauty and art, classical principles of beauty and art, traditional and modern art, have been thrown out the window and discarded, almost to the point of ridiculed, with urinals and unmade beds and defecation on the gallery floor and so on. So that something that you're a living stand for is reclaiming beauty and art. But the other thing that you've long talked about is this absolute damning of male sexuality
Yeah.
and the place of sex. And
Yeah.
we started off this conversation talking about the feedback that we've had about the next vision of masculinity and what is a meta-modern view and beyond, supposedly, of art, beauty, the place of the man. But the other questions that we're getting are, what does it look like for me to really embody my lower moving energy with my upper moving energy?
Oh, we
And
get that.
and I'm having a conversation right now on the topic of sexual shame, which I think is one of the repercussions that we have on a society-wide level of growing up in cultures that condition men to really doubt and judge and be in some kind of inner war against their own sexuality.
Yeah.
So I would love to kind of go in that domain. Like, what is it about? I think there's something about sex, or something right at the heart of sex or male sexuality, which in culture is not being explored in any sort of artistic or even charitable way right now. And that this has something great and life-giving to bring into the conversation.
For sure. It, if I'm a crusader for anything, if we're a crusader for anything, it's that. It's like, stop vilifying boys and their desire and their desires and their desires toward um, sexual energy, thrusting energy, building energy, creating energy, dangerous energy. Um, it's such a vilification, and I am very strongly against that, and I think it's wrong. And we're even more along the lines, even this year than last year, and the year before, and the year before. We're even further down that path of just rancid destruction of the the male archetype, the male psyche, and it's major forces that are flowing and blowing along. We talked last podcast, I think it was, that there's, I mean, certain things you couldn't do nowadays. You couldn't have the TV show Friends nowadays because it's got outdated um, outdated offensive ideas in it, and comedians are all shut up. You can't say anything offensive anymore. I'm against it completely, and it's a failing of our society. And I don't know, conversation is going to change it, but there's been something instilled in a certain generation. I don't know what exactly that generation is, that will not change. They're going to grow old with these ideologies, thinking that there's an offensiveness in the male psyche, for instance, because they're born into a society that believe that way, and they believe it too. And things that were 20 years ago that were nothing are cast as offensive. And cancel culture and canceling all these historical figures, as we talked about before. So yeah, there's that, to me, is an analog. It's exact same thing is the artistic world throwing out beauty out of art and saying, we celebrating ugliness. I've got books on it, Transfiguration of the Commonplace by Arthur Danto. I got books on this idea that beauty is not something that we ignore anymore. We're ignoring it. We violently cast it out, violently shake it away from us, and say no because the world is not beautiful, etc. And so this violently shaking out the heart of a young man, a young boy, their spirit, and saying it's wrong and it's offensive and is the same thing that the art world has done. It's stripping out men, making them kitsch, making them sentimental, making them pliable, making them male feminists. And it's all the same thing. It's a stripping away of beauty of the masculine soul. It's taken the beauty out of masculinity and leaving this empty shell of saccharine compliance and apologetic spirit. And it's completely violently wrong in my mind. And it's a sin that we've done it. And I'm against it. And they could cancel me and shut me down, but I'll say it as I'm reaching up through the crowd of pitchforks, you know. This is all the same thing. Restoring beauty. When I talk about restoring beauty, it's restoring beauty in the masculine heart. So we love ourselves as men again. Restoring beauty in the feminine heart, so that we don't have these self-image issues, and we realize that the feminine spirit is a life-giving spirit and is as powerful as the masculine spirit, not identical. That's our problem. We're trying to blend these two together, which is another sin. So that's the stripping out of beauty, out of polarity of men and women. It's all the same thing. This modern culture has turned her face away from beauty in relationships, in politics, in art, in architecture, in everything. And our thesis and our goal is to restore that, starting with the heart of young men. That's how I start, because that's what I know. Because I was completely apologetic for my sexual nature, told to by society. So, you muted, Jordan.
So one of the great comments that we had recently was from somebody asking if you can give a bit of a high definition vision of what the beauty of the full-hearted and fully sexual male spirit looks like today. Maybe this is something you can describe because you've seen it with men that you've worked with or that you've known, or men whose journeys have gone from, let's say, shame or hiding or repressing because of what they grew up with, and then they embody it. Can you give a visual of this? Because some people are dying to understand and they don't see it. They don't see a form of masculinity that they're like, yeah, this is great. It's sexual. It's full-hearted. I aspire to that. And it's clear.
Well, you know, I go back to the metaphor that I use, which, without going into it, because we've talked about it over and over again, it's everywhere. It's written in my book. The idea of the integrated man being upper and lower energy combined, right? Upper respect and all this kind of stuff, lower moving energy, which in my mind defines a very narrow and very specific and very articulated and very real and very historic archetype. An archetype of a masculine spirit who loves life, who loves the spirit of women, who loves the spirit of art, who wants to have an artful life, wants people around him to be elevated in their energy and spirit and fun, just like he is. Wants everybody to be better off having met him, is not a victim, is not complaining about the society and how the world is not fair anymore and how there's no opportunities. And instead of saying, you know, in the midst of all this doom and gloom that we see on the earth, I'm going to go out there and seek beauty and head towards beauty in relationships, etc. It's an archetype, and there's very few men that identify with that. We call it the Amorata, which is an invented archetype, because there is no word in the English language that describes a man like that. There is no word in English that I know of that describes this type of man who's got this love of the joie de vivre and is not necessarily the compliant horse walking around in the stable. He's a stallion. He's got this energy. So we call it the Amorata archetype, and there's historical examples in my mind of men who have this sparkle in their eye, this treasure hunting, treasure seeking spirit, this real desire and love of the people in their life, their family, their wife, their children, the people they meet. They have this real exuberant love of life, and they do not act like victims, and they don't blame society. They don't blame anybody. See,
All right. So I'm going to get real meticulous English teacher with you. This is really broad. How does it look like in the moment? Like, let's say it's a Friday night and there is a social gathering, or if you think of some of the people, what are some of the specific things that these men say or do that transmits their sexual energy and their nature?
I just had a call with my I do a What Would Zan Do course, and I have alumni calls I'm doing right now with these guys. We just had a call yesterday, 2 days ago. And the idea in this modern age of a man analog meeting a woman on the street is, it's so fraught with, compared to what it was 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, where that was the only way you could meet somebody, was to say hello on the street or the church or whatever, right? And now that's stripped out of us because of Tinder and digital, that if you do go and approach a woman on the street, it's a shock to them. They don't know how to react. And they're subconsciously taught that this is unwanted attention anyway. And you don't do that nowadays. That's an offensive thing to do. You can't just approach somebody on the street and say, hi, what's your name? I'm busy with my headset in, and we're on our phones and, digital. So they're expecting it's kind of, society expects our first brush up against the opposite sex is going to come through our gadget. So, so on a practical level, it's different for me. If I went up to a woman in the street 20 years ago and said, hey, what's your name? I think you're pretty. My name is Zan, etc. There's a chance of engagement that could be productive and happy and etc. Whatever percent it is, I don't know. Because a lot of women are going to say, I'm not interested even 20, 50 years ago. But now it's skewed against that, where it's kind of like a sudden shock to her and she's distant, and, and maybe she gives you an Instagram, something. So it's like, it's not quite the same receptivity because of just the way society is constructed. So how do you get across, if you are that guy that wants to go up and say, wow, I think you're pretty and I would like to date you, I'd like to see you again. How do you get that across when the audiences shut you down immediately? How do you, or they say, like you get enough to say your name, et cetera, and how do you express that? This is the conversation that we had in my alumni group. How, if you have money and you display it, there's a certain subset of women that are going to be drawn to it. So you can say, okay, well, that's my in. That's my approaching. That's my approach. Or if you're famous, your fame approaches before you do, and there's a receptivity. What if you don't have those things? So what do you have as an Amorati archetype, as a lover of life and this header seeker of beauty? You have that. You have this vision quest, this adventure spirit in you that most men don't have. They're working their job. They're trying to get a girl. They go and have some beers with their buddies. They meet a girl. They try and get her number. They try and get laid. And they just go through this cycle of life because they don't have this whimsical, mystical, faraway look in their eyes of something else, right? So, and if you go to a girl on the street and your name is Jordan Collier and you have this vision quest spirit and you feel like a treasure hunter and you want to know your path in life, you want to be excellent, you're still going to get shut down because she looks at you, yeah, okay, it's like, but because this is where you had a conversation with the group. If you meet a girl on the street, you're just a guy in a hat. If you met that same girl, Jordan, and in a closed environment, and you were talking about the things you're trying to understand in life right now, she would be fascinated by you. She'd be completely, like, now you have that in, like the famous guy or the rich guy, because you're talking about this beautiful love of journey that you have in your heart, and you've seen some things, the adventures you've been on, the adventures you're going to, the recreation in the heart of people that you're trying to espouse, and women want to be part of that too. Now she's got different eyes for you because she sits in the glow of what you're trying to create, which doesn't happen on the street outside Starbucks. So my long-winded point is, how do you do that? Let me take a sip of water. And it occurs to me that, because I'm just like any other guy, if I meet a girl in a lounge or something, hey, girls, who lies more, men or women? I'm just a guy, and it might be make them laugh, or maybe they give me their Instagram, but when I message them 2 days later, you get one word answer and then disappears. This is the biggest thing the guys are getting right now. Like they meet these girls and get engagement and they get there on Instagram and they send a message and say, hey, you know, I met you, but I was wearing a blue shirt and a white hat, blah, blah. And she answers back, hey, it was nice to meet you too. And then would you like to get together sometime? Well, I'm really busy with my studies right now. 2 days later, you send her another message. This is so common on Instagram, right? So how's your studies going? Would you like to get together this evening? It's not a good time for me right now. And then this dead. Okay? Because they just see you as a guy in a blue shirt and a white hat. You're just as so. My long-winded point here, the practical thing that I do, and I didn't even recognize I'm doing it, but I do it, is the first thing out of my mouth is how I'm different.
Okay.
On a practical level. So if they say, so, you know, where are you from? I'm from Canada. And what do you do, for instance, right? Now, let's say I was a software programmer, but I'm on this archetype, this Vita Amorata journey. I'm trying to understand my life as an Amorati archetype, okay? She asked me what I do. I could say I'm a software programmer. I work for such and such and such, and, you know, I'm a digital nomad because that's why I'm here visiting the city. And that gets the nod and gets you the Instagram and etc. But there's nothing in that that's got a mythic arc to it. So I don't say I'm a software programmer. I am a software programmer, but I'm also something more. And what I am is I'm a student of life and I'm a lover of the restoration of beauty. That's what I am. That's what I'm doing. And so the first thing out of my mouth is I'll say these phrases. So what do you do? I'll say, you know what I do is very interesting. I say that. I just know it because this is automatically what I say. It's not something I invented. I never thought, hey, this is a good thing to say. It's just something that I would say. This is what would Zan do. So they say, what do? You know what I do? And I've said this to women. What I do is super interesting and you would love it. That's my sentence. That's what I say. What I do is really interesting and you would love it. What? What do you mean? What are you talking about? We're in the process of trying to understand the concept of beauty again in this world that we've lost. And I talk to men and I talk to women about this concept, and I'm writing about it, and I'm this is what I'm fascinated by. I want to know this. Now you set apart in your first 30 seconds or minute of meeting her, and I'll say this phrase too. I'll say this phrase. So tell me about you, she said. I say, why? I'll tell you about me. I'm not like other men. I say that phrase. I'm not like other men. What do you mean you're not like other men? Because otherwise, I am like every other man. She's not going to tell by my hat and whatever that, oh, this guy's different, because she has so many options. So many guys tweeting her, so many guys Tinder swiping her, so many guys, you know, she has so many male options that I don't stand apart. I'm just a guy. So I say to her that I'm not like other men. I say that phrase, I'm not like other men. And what I do is super interesting, and you would love it. So, and then the conversation could go to, she will tell me more about that. Okay, I will tell you more about it. This is fantastic. You're gonna love it, and you would want to be part of it. It's the same thing. It's a mini Jordan sitting in. If you're holding court and there's like 10 women listening to you talk, and they've never met you before, within 30 seconds, a minute, no, 2-3 minutes, they would be fascinated by you and want to know you more. And if you got them on Instagram, just say, message me, because you're thinking differently. And so how do you get that across to women if you're just going, if you don't say it, you can't do it. So my long-winded point here practically is I tell women that I'm different than other men and I'm doing something different and you would love it. That's what I say. And I don't even know her name yet. That's how early I say it.
So a couple of points on this. One is the question, how does this tie together the lower and the upper moving energy? I mean, is this sexual? Is it not sexual? You're kind of commenting on what you do in the world, but to what degree does that transmit a sense that you're sexually open, sexually alive, and not?
To me, if you just gave that information and said these phrases, This is interesting. I'm feeling this through, but it's real. And I'm sure about this. I'm just trying to put words on it. If you just repeated the lines that you said, and you really don't have a winking a relationship with yourself in the mirror, look at yourself, say, you scoundrel. What do you're nervous, but you're sure trying. You're sure damn well trying, and you like yourself in the mirror because you're trying something. If you have that, then it comes across. You're not just saying the sentences I said. It comes across with a mischief and a danger element and a real gravitas and a sense of adventure and horizons and a rolling sea. It feels, you can feel it in your spirit. This is abstract, I know, but you've got to, if you have to have embodied this idea that we're all broken, we've all sinned and come short of the glory of God. We all need redemption, and we're seeking redemption. We all are. And so you can forgive yourself everything. And if you've forgiven yourself everything, all the mistakes you made and all the not knowing that nobody taught you, and you've forgiven yourself, you can have this calm assurance in yourself that I might be nervous, I might be horny, I might be lonely, but at least I'm heading in a certain direction. And then it becomes a conviction element. And so these sentences that you say, hey, I'm not like other men, and you would love what I do, have conviction in it, because and that's the difference. Is it's gotta feel congruent with how you represent, how you're looking at yourself, how you see yourself.
So you answer the question. Even though you're saying some quite simple introductory things, you say you're carried by a sea of energy. There's a wave, and it's embodied. There's an embodied sense that whatever your sexual self has been, and whatever you've done, and wherever you've been, and whatever you've struggled to forgive yourself for, you've found that kind of peace, and that sense of I'm up to something in the world, and you'll love it. That's backed up by something that you believe in.
Yes.
And I can feel it as you speak. All of this is installed in the body as a kind of certainty. It's not like it's not invulnerable, but it's very certain. You've sat and steeped yourself in your own, let's say, right relationship, your own convicted sense of goodness in what you want, what you bring, what is the goodness of the intention behind it, what you're looking to restore, how it's beneficent for other people, how it might benefit you, but ultimately it's not like you're trying to go into the world to get something for yourself and then cloister yourself away with a girl or whatever it is. And these are convictions installed in the body.
Yes, and I should say this, Jordan. It doesn't mean that you steeped in this for years and you came to another side and now you got confidence and conviction. You can now talk to girls. Guys are waiting for that to happen. That doesn't happen. You're going to be nervous and red faced, and your ears are going to be twitching because you see a girl that you're really attracted to. That's a good thing. So, as long as you've had that conversation with yourself and said, like, I'm struggling, I'm trying to figure this out, I'm trying to forgive myself, I'm trying to learn this, and I want to. You've got enough conviction to say hello to any girl. You're newly discovering this option of a choice, of perspective, of forgiveness, and it's going to be okay to yourself, as opposed to beating yourself up and blaming yourself. And so you don't need to come to this conviction, because conviction can be in a young man who's a virgin and is not talked to a lot of girls. But what do you have conviction of? You convicted that I'm lonely and I would like to meet a beautiful girl that looks like this. That's strong conviction. That's a good thing. And I want to be sincere. And if you're sincere, you have the same sense of mystical gravitas and mystical journey in your spirit. Even if you just started out on that journey, it doesn't matter. She's going to feel it and say there's something about him. That's why women go, he wasn't the tallest guy. He's not good looking. Not rich. He had a ratty old T-shirt. Not really in shape. But I can't stop thinking about him because he has that mystical quality that everyone aspires to. She would like to have it too.
Yeah, my next question is, from all the guys that you've seen, that you've known and worked with personally, is it fast or is it slow to fill oneself up with a sense of conviction that has this impact in a first impression?
Well, when you've been when you've been knocked around since you were a little boy and discouraged from others and yourself, you beat yourself up all your life, blamed yourself, you thought this world's not fair, you look at yourself as a victim, all this kind of, it's really difficult to turn that's a
Mm.
whole house you've been living in, and you got to move house. And so it's a lot of furniture that you built up and you've become accustomed to. So it's really, it's a process, it's a journey, but the awareness is curative. Just to be aware that you can move to a new house. You don't have to live there and with your childhood trauma. You don't have to live there anymore. Yes, your childhood sucked, you're abandoned, you're betrayed, you're abused. I get it. Yeah, and it's a sad thing. You shake hands with that and say, okay, that's an old house. I'm going to move to a new house by choice, by force of will, by by saying no more. I'm going to manually adjust this because it's not automatically going to adjust for me as I read more self-help books. No automatic shift in me. I'm going to manually shift it. I'm going to manually break this furniture and go to this other place. So um, it's a choice, and it's available to anybody. And when you've started to make that, when you've made that choice internally, even though you're going to return to your bad thoughts and your saboteur is going to come in and say you suck, and you get some confidence and get a wind behind you, and you go talk to a girl and she shuts you down hard, and you go back, well, that didn't work, and I get it, I suck, and I'm back to my old story. This is going to happen. It's going to happen, but you've got to say no. I'm going to manually reconstruct myself, no matter what the cost. I'm going to figure this out. And very few have the fortitude and guts to do it. Just like very few have the fortitude and guts to get in shape. They know that they'll live longer, that they'll be healthier, etc.
Mm.
But man, the habits are strong, to eat this junk food and whatever. And while they're eating it, they're like nodding their head, yeah, I shouldn't do this, but they do it anyway because it's easy.
Tomorrow I'll sort it out. Tomorrow I'll quit coffee and get my life on track.
Yeah.
So one of the topic I'm having a lot at the moment is about sexual shame, because I mean, you've heard it from our guys over the years. Like, if it wasn't for this sexual shame, then I'd be fine. I've really narrowed into the one thing that keeps me back, and it's shame about my sexuality. And I've written a couple of real deep dives on the topic, and we've got an episode specifically out on that right now. I'm curious to, rather than go into the sexual shame side of it, the psychological and the emotional and the things that happen in someone's life to create the shame complex, I'd love to hear from you on this more visionary angle of what does the other side of it look like in the men that you've known? Because if you think, well, what's the opposite of sexual shame? Some people might think, well, it's sexual shamelessness. And I really don't think that it is, because I know a few people that are sexually shameless, and they're a liberating force. They walk around, their comments, the way they speak, the way they celebrate women can be a gift for everyone around. But I also know sexually shameless men who are a complete oppression. Like, you want to keep away from these people because they're flaunting it uninvited in every single opportunity that they get, right? So I don't think shamelessness is the opposite to shame. I think there's something else. And I'd be curious to hear from the men you've known and seen in your life, can you tell a story or two of a man who had a really inviting presence when it came to his sexual acceptance, his sexual sense of delight?
Well, I've only met a few, very honestly, that just unabashedly love who they are. They don't even register that other people might think that they're too audacious. They just love life. And they know we're here for a short time, short stretch, and they really just want to maximize their experience for themselves and for others. And they have a good heart, a good spirit. They're not takers. which is super interesting. They're not manipulators, they're not takers. They're authentic. They are congruent to the core. What you see is what you get. There is no guile in them, as the Bible says. They have no hidden subterfuge or hidden agenda. And I always talk about my friend Kelly. People that listened to me for the last 25 years. My friend Kelly, who embodies that in an immense way. He's fully sexually straightforward, with a smile and a twinkle in his eye, loves life, loves women. And every woman that I've ever seen him with or introduced him to, and I've introduced him to all my social circle, just adore him and want him to succeed in life and want him to be maximized. And he is full force sexual energy. And he's integrated. He's super respectful, comfort giving, kind, empathetic, curious, engaging, charming. And at the same time, he's got this twinkle in his eye that I'm going to bend the whole world over. You come near me, I'll bend you over. And you love it. And he's got this, I use him as my example. I always say, Kelly, hey, Kelly. There's not many men I've seen like this. That's the truth. That have that full force generosity of spirit. That's what it is. It's a real generosity of spirit. You really want to have fun and have a maximized experience in life and learn the best things you can and make the best memories you can, but you don't want to do it at the expense of others. You want them, men and women, to be caught up in it too and see what you see. That's the archetype we're talking about. That's the word there is no word for in the English language, which I call the Amorata archetype. They want everybody to see what they see because they love it. Look at this. And so the sexual desire, the sexual energy, this desire to, it's like Bill, my friend Bill, my 85-year-old friend. He loved life. He was never down. He was never a victim, and until the day he died, he loved his wife. He was completely in love with his wife. And before he met his wife, all those years, he banged everything he could in sight. He just loved it. It's who he is. And people adored him. And there's no such thing as an ex for him because they were generous in the relationship. They were generous to him and he was generous to them when it ended. They only said good things about him, So it's an archetypal thing, and I'm trying to describe it for years. I'm writing a book about it right now. The book I'm writing about is that man. What does he have? What does he do? What is it? It's kind of the alabaster girl, but it's a conversation now capturing this spirit. And I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Well, I think a lot of people would be curious to hear, what does it look like when Kelly's in the room, and what's an example of a joke or a story or something that he would do or how he'd interact with women. We'll skip back to that in a minute. Like the surface, what do you see actually from a person like this? But what I find more interesting is the intention underneath the surface. And a lot of men, for sure, want to be more sexually powerful so that they can go out and get what they want in the land of women. Almost like a sniper. Like, I'm going to go into a nightclub and I'm going to use the subcommunication that I learned from you, and I'm going to use these things that I learned from you, so I can make sure that I get a girl and I can take her home tonight, and I can feel that sense of significance that I can do it. It's seduction and wrapped up in a lot of charm, but the overall intention is, I want this result for me. You hear this all over men's dating coaching. What results are you getting with women, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very much like there's a personal pursuit for my own. Can I prove to myself that I'm powerful enough to do this? So I will get that woman, and then I have a personal experience for me. Yes, trophy.
And she's
internal trophy.
She's interchangeable with any other girl.
Right.
That didn't work, and I got this one. So now I got a result. Yeah.
But there's something I think you're saying with Kelly. You mentioned the words generosity, that it's a giving energy, like rather than this taking, which you can be as authentic or as charming as you want, but fundamentally be trying to take your piece, snap off your piece of the cookie of women. or you bring something else to the table. And it sounds to me like someone like Kelly will come into the room, and it's like, I want whatever energy I'm feeling, I want to give this as a gift to everyone in the room, almost like there's no worry or no fear that I'm going to get a piece here. I'm going to get a piece of validation or a piece of action.
Let me make a distinction.
Yeah.
And I'm just inventing this in my mind right now, but it feels right. The first guy you talk about gets some kind of skill set or whatever, and he's out like the sniper, or the 2 shots in the back of the head, and I'm out of here, sort of thing, you know.
Yeah.
They're out to satisfy that themselves, like you said. They're out there to get a result for themselves. That's a taker. That's a manipulator. Doesn't care about the object, which is the woman. She's just an object of she's the means to the end of getting that validation for himself. And then there's the opposite of that, which is the guy that's just pure giving. That's the sensitive, nice guy that asks nothing for himself. He's just slathering her with attention, and which is sickly for women. Women don't want this. He'll go down on her for hours, and he gives and gives and gives and gives and gives and gives, and no, whatever you want, you know. And he's compliant and sensitive and a great dater. And women will date him 2 or 3 times, and then I want nothing more to do with him. The archetype I'm talking about is a combination of both, which is a combination of upper energy and lower energy. So, you know, so he's a combination. So he isn't this giving soul, because he also wants to maximize his life and his memories and his experience and his pleasure and his joy. And he wants everyone to partake of it. That's the difference. It's a combination of both, and I have to describe it better. But it's not this manipulating results for me only, and he's not results for her only, which is a lot of guys are. That's why they'll be in a friend zone, because they'll do anything for her, hoping she'll someday give him a cookie or give him, you know, some sprinkles, or, you know, sprinkle him with some fairy dust because he was so nice and went shopping with her and drove her to the airport. It's the combination of those again. It's the integrated type man who really wants to be generous to her and drive her to the airport. And of course, I'll drive her to the airport, and I'll go shopping with you because that's who I am. Not because I wanted to get something back for you, because this is who I am. Yeah, I would be generous to you because generosity of spirit. And so he's at the same time that he's giving to her, he's receiving something that he needs for himself too, and he's not shy in taking it or in accepting it. And women recognize this. That's why women give to men like that. They don't give they give reluctantly. No, they give unknowingly, because they're manipulated by the first guy, the sniper guy. So they give something, and they feel cheated. They feel icky. They feel like that, you know, that was not right, and he's making fun or whatever, right? So they lose something. They get something stolen from them. The second guy, they give him nothing. They give him nothing because he demands nothing. He's just a suck. He's just humping their leg, and so they just accept it because it's nice. And he's buying me jewelry. All right, I'll take it. And, you know, he's gonna drive me to the party, and I'll meet other guys. Well, if he wants to do that, it's up to him. They're not evil. Some women are, but they're not. Women just will take advantage of that because it's easy and it's free. It's free, but they give nothing to the guy, nothing back. Right? He doesn't even steal anything like the first guy. And with this archetype,
they might touch his arm, stroke his arm, or
just
nice, but like the energy is something.
Well, here's what happens when they feel like he's getting internally kind of frustrated or pissed off, then you know, why are not all the other men like you? You know, stroke his arm, give him a kiss on the cheek. You know, you're so fantastic. You're my best friend.
How come you haven't got a girlfriend? I mean, it makes no sense to me. You're amazing. Yeah. How long's it been since you haven't got a girlfriend? That makes no sense. Yeah.
And
women must be blind. They're all bitches.
Yeah. And they do this subconsciously. They'll get all frisky and kind of sexual with him if you feel he's pulling away. And then he comes back, okay, what else can I buy for her? You know, something, you know, Yeah, it's a
But
cycle.
the guy who's forgiving but also has a demand. So he's someone who fundamentally gives to the woman or the group of women or the circle that he goes out in. But also there's a sense that he does want, or there is a demand. Is that the word you used?
No, the word I used is there's a I don't know what the word is, because it feels almost like he's out to maximize his experience in life. That's all he has is himself. That's all he knows. But in doing so, he can't stand the idea that others don't get to maximize too. Like how do I have this great experience in life? Like I have this feeling with my relationship. My relationship with my sweetheart is fantastic, and I adore it. This is me today, right? And I see other relationships of good people, people I know, for instance, and they don't have a nice relationship. And I'm thinking, that seems patently unfair. How do I get this? How do I deserve something like this? You know what I'm saying? And they don't, and it feels, and I wish they could have it too. So this is the kind of thing, like I'm out to maximize my own experience in life because that's all I have is me. That's all I know. But I want others to to have the same joy and exuberance and feel the same thing that I feel. I want them to have it too. There's something in me. I'm not altruistic. I'm not charitable. It's so it's not like I set out to this is the nuance. It's not like I set out to maximize the pleasure and the opportunities of others, and by extension, I want mine too. No, I want to. I'm doing it me first. I'm taking care of me, but I want everyone to be caught up in it too. I want it. I maybe it's a nuance, but it sounds more accurate than to say that I'm a giver, but I also want to demand
Hmm.
or have a demand too. No, I have this desire to absorb life, to drink life like a fine wine, to smell it, to completely imbibe in it. You know, in the hedonistic sense, and I want others to be caught up in that too. I don't want to do it to the advantage of them or disadvantage of them. So, but it's me first, and then others. Let's go, something like that. That's what feels more aligned to me.
Hmm.
And that archetype, I'm describing an archetype, which is very real, which we talk about. The Amirati, in my mind, that we're trying to describe all these years, that archetype is a word we invented to cover this archetype of this great lover of life. And we have, you know, the Amirati Guild, which is this group of guys that have like-minded spirit, like-minded trade, like-minded ideas, like-minded winking energy, and they want to be caught up in this, and they want to give to others. They want others to be part of it, which is our Amirati Guild, and we have the practical application of that, which is what we call Vita Amarata, this life of living the Ars Amorata philosophy. So it's all coming together into that spectrum in my mind, and it's an archetype that we're not inventing, but we're really honing in on describing, and I don't think it's been described before.
There's a there's a guy that keeps coming back to my mind as we're having this conversation, and a couple of tiny little stories about him. This I mean, this is going back like 12 or 13 years, so a long, long time. But I was helping out in a workshop. There was some kind of program, and it was, I think, the last day, and something big was happening behind the scenes. So everyone who was leading the workshop or helping with the workshop, everyone was stressed, and there was a lot of participants. It was like a big retreat. I don't know, probably like 40 or 50 people there in total. And I remember coming in on the Sunday morning, and I came in early because there was a lot to set up, and I really wanted to help out and make sure everything was set up. And I went to the store. This is in the States, and I bought like an $8 smoothie, which in those days was an incredible, astronomical amount of money on a smoothie, and it had all the superfoods in it that you could imagine. Right, it came in with my avocado, blackcurrant, whatever, acai smoothie, and I was very proud to have my smoothie, and that was going to give me the vigor to get through the day. And I walked up the steps to go into the main room where the event was going to be held, and I tripped on the top step, and smoothie just went all over everywhere and stained the carpet, and I lost my $8 smoothie. And I'm like, God, with all the things that I need to set up this morning, the last thing I needed was that. And This guy came through the front door right behind me. He hadn't been in the building yet. He just came in off the street, and he's like, "You're right, what's going on?" And he helps me up to my feet. And I say, I've totally fucked up the carpet with the smoothie. It's going to take ages to get this out. And he's like, "I guess you're behind track then." And I got the bucket, and I got the vacuum cleaner and so on to start taking care of the mess that I made. And what he does in the meantime is, without any how do you say, request or ask or anything like that, or even like no victimization or anything on my side. I'm just like, oh, that's really fucked up. He goes down to the store and he buys me a replacement $8 smoothie with his own money, and I'm like, "Can I give you the money?" He's like, "No, this is for you." He gives me the smoothie, and I'm like, that's it's such a simple gesture, but it's legendary. It's like your
today
ultimate big brother energy. The big bro that you always wish you had, and I felt like picked up and supported in a male way, in a way that's uncommon in my life, that I've rarely known that kind of thing.
Wow.
Anyway, there's like a party about a week later, and I'm sitting on the sofa with two women. And so it's like, there's a woman here and there's a woman in the middle, and the woman in the middle I really like, and I'm on the side here. I'm on the right hand side of the sofa, and the three of us, and we're having a really good engaged time. And the same guy comes through the door, and he's like big, and he trains and so on. I mean, don't remember what, like, there's like some Tai Chi as well as, other martial stuff that he's doing. And he comes in, and he just has this great stance and this great way of walking. And he comes over to the sofa, and the two women part and make space for him. So there's the one woman on the side, and then the woman I like next to me, and me on this side. And they create this big space in the middle of the two women for him. And he sits down on the sofa, and he takes his two hands, and he places his two hands on one of the thighs of each of the women. And he lets out this big exhalation, like, something like this. And what happens, and he's invited, it's important to say, the women clearly with their actions, they look up at him, and their whole body, their whole spirit is an invitation that he comes in, and he puts his hand on the thighs, right? And he takes this big exhalation, like, "Oh, it's so nice to be here." And all I can feel inside of me is this dread building up, which is like, it's almost like I can feel the arousal of the girl that I like build. And I'm like, if he wants, he will just take her off me in a split second, and I'm defenseless to do anything about it. And at the same time, I admire him that much that I can't complain. He's like clearly a much better specimen of manhood than I am. Like, who would I to be a little bitch and complain? After buying me the $8 smoothie, right? What recompense do I have?
Oh.
And I remember that so strongly. But the amount of energy, like the gravity that followed him as he sat down on the sofa, it wasn't just his body, which was like, it had a fair size to it. It was the energy that he sat down on the sofa, and the energy that moved through the two women. I felt that really strong. I could feel the whole kinetic reaction of this sofa change as he took his space in the middle of it. It was really jarring, and I think we got to seek out these experiences. What it feels like when someone comes into the room, and the whole gravity of the room then changes.
Yep.
And look out for this kind of thing, because it's really real.
It's the only thing that I'm talking about, trying to write about, because I'm trying to capture that, because it's not been captured that I know of. There's glimpses of it in historical stories, in maybe some poetry, but it's I'm trying to really catch that archetype. What is that? Like, how do we, the spirit, because it's not just confidence, it's not just audacity, it's not just generosity. It's layers and nuances of everything that's integrated, that's got all the upper energy things and all the lower energy things.
Yeah.
I should do a diagram that shows upper energy is all these things, and lower energy is all these things.
Like
a visual
thing.
There's
a couple of things that really bewilder me and strike me as being fundamentally important on this topic of gravity. So this story was really wonderful. I have known a few other people that had something unexpected. I've been to a few mystical sites in the world, And I didn't get this for a long, long time. You know, it's usually girls say things like, "Oh, I went to this temple and it had this amazing energy," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, whatever, whatever, whatever." Like, throw your energy at me. You know, I wouldn't get this whole spiritualized thing. But I had a couple of experiences. I went to Jerusalem in Israel, and I went to the Western Wall.
The Wailing
And
Wall.
I think it was the first time in my life that as I saw the thing, the wall, and the people praying, and the devout um, Jewish people, the touching and praying, I couldn't really get that close to the wall because I was like, I just feel that this doesn't belong to me. But at the same time, the energy was so strong. There was
Mm.
a power, right, in a very mystical sense, and I was very stricken by this sense of power that the wall had. And I'm like, where does the power come from? Does it come from the wall, or does it come from the centuries of prayer that has gone into the wall? Like, what is the origin of this force field that is in this wall? And
For
I
the
went
reverend
to,
people in the present moment,
yeah.
right? Could be
And
emanating from them.
is the energy of the wall just made from the present, or does the wall accrue stored up energy that was put into it in the past? I mean, this is really going above my level of comprehension. But I was in the south of India as well, and I went to a couple of temples and places where, you know, realized masters were supposed to have abided for decades of their lives, right, and given all their devotion and worship to. There was Ramana Maharshi that fell in love with a mountain. There's the tomb of Sri Aurobindo, actually, which is in this beautiful ashram. And as soon as I came into the site, I could feel there was this pregnant force in both places. And I really got this sense that spiritual sites on earth can have this force field about them. And I'm like, well, what is it about that? And therefore, can people have such a force field about them as well? And
Mm.
and this is what I am quite compelled by, the way that a person themselves can be a force of gravity, or that a person themselves can have this pregnant force, which is they sit in the room. You could sit there like a potato, but let's say you meditate into some really deep states, or you've had some direct experience in your life that was profound. You emanate what that is without trying. So I can't imagine, like you said earlier, you gave this really practical nugget of if you meet if you meet two or three women in a social occasion, you could say, you know what, I'm different from other men because I'm into this and my life is about this. So that's something you could do, but I tend to think I don't need to say that because I am that.
Right.
I became it. Like the fact that I lived my myth means that I came home and I am the thing. So I am a living, emanating figure of the myth. And I sense in my life that people who know, or people who are open to the thing, whatever it is, people who know. And I mean, you had someone years and years ago who wrote this article about the sexual cartel or something like that, or there's a conspiracy. If you're in the club, you're in the club. If you're
Yeah.
good with your sexuality, or if you've seen The Secret, if you've had the initiation, if you know the thing in your bones, you emanate the vibration of the thing, and everyone else in the secret club who knows about the club, i.e., what sex is really about and what our secrets are, and they look around and they know that you know. And so there is this ping in of eye saying, I know that you know. Yep, we're in it's like you don't even need the handshake. The handshake is done energetically and just sealed with a little smile,
That's right.
right? I know that you are the kind of guy that knows. So I mean, to bring this very full circle, what I'm very interested in our debate for men is not the galaxy brain philosophy of this is what a man can look like or should look like, or what the next chapter is, and we've figured out why and how, and we have all these 10 points. It's my favorite book on the topic is The Heart of Darkness, Joseph Conrad's Heart of
Mm.
Darkness. Why does this book carry a mystique which is so severe and full and dark? You know, the way that, and it's Apocalypse Now, the way that Willard goes so slowly on this boat, zigzagged by the madness of the war, and he's in pursuit of Kurtz, which is the archetype of insanity, and he's compelled to go and meet face to face pure, amoral, male insanity in human form, and what's going to come of him when he has that meeting. The vibration of that pursuit, and then the hush after the final scene of Apocalypse Now, and you get this right at the end of the Heart of Darkness, the final hush after having that encounter with amoral insanity and who he comes back as a force of gravity afterwards. This is what I want to see transmitted, and I think it's something in us as men. How to have this sense of gravity is you sail down the river and you face the ultimate darkness within yourself, and coming back from that, you emanate that forever.
Yeah,
and that's Mystique. This is a
journey from order to chaos. All my favorite movies.
So for me, philosophy doesn't suffice. There is the myth, or the culmination of the myth is living direct experience, and then coming back as someone who knows that. And then I think you don't have to say a thing. You just need to buy smoothies, for people. And what I love about this guy is, like, he clearly had something of that in his soul, for whatever life circumstance gave it to him. But the fact that he comes in behind me is kind of archetypal, and he comes into the room and it's like, I'm going to walk into this room. There's a community of people here. They're going to do their thing. How can I be of service to this? Because I know that I bring a massive source of knowledge and understanding.
Yeah.
But, this guy spilt a smoothie. I'll buy him another smoothie. This person over there needs help with this. The question of service then comes in. How do I become of service to this whole context?
Yeah, amazing. Huh?
And he does that, and then he's in service. It's like he's fully giving, but the entire force of gravity that he is attracts everything in the room back to him.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point. Exactly. That's great. Wow.
A few things in there, but I think for me,
at
least,
some thoughtful things, and some things that we could bring into new podcasts, because this is uncharted. It's kind of like waters that we've navigated, or we're new to navigating it, or we've been there before, but we haven't really articulated it. Trying to say something like that. There's lots of things to explore that are just fascinating to me. It's gonna be clear. It's becoming clearer in my mind.
Can you say one before we sign off?
No, it's just that just more and more, I'm understanding that my life's work is trying to describe that archetype. I mean, 20 years ago, I had a speech I did that was called 10 Traits of the Natural. I did a speech called 10 Traits of the Natural. This is what a natural does. I wrote a manifesto back then. I should post that. Of how this guy looks at the world in a different way. And I do talk about men, because I'm a man, and that's what I know in relationship to others. So more and more I realize that what my life's work is capture that archetype of a lover of beauty. What does that look like? You described that the man you talked about had the generosity of spirit to do that for you, because that's who he is. Not because he wants you to like him, not because he's trying to be altruistic and be charitable and win his way to heaven. It's not that. It's who he is. He just doesn't need to be thanked. He likes life. He likes you. He likes he likes that you spilled it and he gets to replace it. That's cool. So it really feels strong, to me. So I want to think about this more.
A lot of people will be listening, I think, and wondering how to get conviction. We spent some time with the topic of conviction. How do I get this in my body? And I think if I lack conviction, then I will go and seek. I will become a seeker. I might not, but I might. If I'm that way inclined, I'll try and seek things in the world to get some kind of knowledge, to feel the conviction whole, so that I might be whole, so that I might have the wholeness in me that is conviction.
Okay.
I'm curious about the moments where the seeking turns into finding, and then the finding then turns into the conviction,
Wisdom, yeah.
and then what the conviction might then give.
There you go.
I like the accounts of those journeys of
Me too.
when seeking turns into revelation,
Yeah, me too.
and when the gravity descends and a different air or a different kind of force field descends on someone.
Yeah.
I think this is initiation, language for what it means to initiate.
It's what we've been talking about for years. We're just putting a new slant on it. I think it's the same thing. Upper and lower energy. Fascinating. This is fascinating. Yeah, it's good.
I'm sure, dear listeners, we'll start off with your questions every single week from the comments, and we'll try and hammer around them, and then we'll end up frustrating you with not actually nailing it, but maybe circling closer and closer to it all the time. But if you
We're
have
always
things
circling around the drain, we never actually go down.
never actually getting sucked down it, maybe one time we will do. Yeah, come back with your stories and refine questions, and see if we can get closer to the essence of this.
There you go. Come join our guild. Have this conversation.